Hello everybody, this is the Average Uploader here, bringing you the second Photoshop tutorial in my series. Today we're going to be learning how to manipulate layers and what the Shape tool and the Selection tool do. Okay, so if you haven't noticed already, pressing F7 brings up the Layers box, or the Layers tab, or whatever you want to call it. Now this is very important because layers are very important in any Photoshop job. Okay, so layers are basically what they say on the tin. There are layers of layers of pictures, I guess. Whatever you want to kind of look at it. It determines, what's in front of what is behind what, and they are arranged as such. The ones at the top are at the forefront, and the ones at the very bottom are at the very back. So as you can see here, the background layer is at the very back, and this blue circle here, as its layer 4, as you can see from the thumbnail, is at the very forefront, and it is in front of everything. Okay, so I know that this box may seem a little bit confusing. There are options and dialogues and buttons everywhere, so we're going to take it very slowly. First thing first, I'm going to talk about the background layer. Now, the background layer appears every time you start a new Photoshop project. At the start, you get to choose whether or not it is opaque or not, or whether it is solid white or a solid color. We did that in the first episode. So we have this background layer. Now, it's locked, we can't edit it, and I'm going to leave it like that for this tutorial because I don't want to edit it and I want it to stay in the background. However, if you do, you can double click on it and you'll see there it comes up new layer, and you can just click OK and it will make layer 0. However, I don't want to do this, so I'm going to click cancel, but you can. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is dragging the layers around. So let's just say I want this blue circle to be at the very back. I can just grab it, drag it downwards, and you'll see it makes this line. Now, that's where it's going to put it, in between these two, but I'm going to drag it to the very bottom. You'll see there, and there you go. The blue circle is now behind. Let's just say I want to bring the red circle to the very front. I grab it, drag it to the top, and let go, and you'll see it's now at the very forefront. The background layer cannot be dragged because it's meant to be at the very back. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is the lock options. The first thing locks the transparent pixels in the picture or layer that you've got selected. The second one locks the image pixels, the third locks the position, and the fourth just locks everything so that you can't adjust, edit, or move it. Now, if we lock the transparent pixels, it would lock everything that is transparent, and transparency is indicated by, well, obviously whether or not you can see behind it, see anything around it, and also in this thumbnail here you can see that there is a checkerboard pattern. Anything that is checkerboard does not actually have anything drawn in it, so they are transparent, as indicated here with this little thumbnail. The second one does the exact opposite. It just locks everything that you've actually drawn. The third one locks the movement, so you can't actually move the layer around. So if I lock its movement here and try to drag it, I can't drag it. It says could not complete your request because the layer is locked. And this lock button locks everything, kind of like the background. The only difference between this and the background is that I can unlock this layer, whereas with the background layer selected, I can't lock or unlock it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is making a new layer and folders. If you want to make a new layer, you can just have nothing selected and go down to this, and you will see that if you hover over this, it says create a new layer. You just want to click, and there you go, it'll make a new layer at the top. Or if you select this and then make a new layer, it'll put one in between. We don't want that though, so we can just select that and then click the delete button, or press the delete button rather, on our keyboard. Okay, so now we're going to look at folders. If you click the folder icon, it will make a new folder at the top. This is useful because you can group your layers together in folders, so it's easier to see what's going on, especially if you've got a big project, you want to know where things are. So, to put things in folders, all you want to do is grab it and drag it into it at the top. As such, and you'll see there it's in the folder. I can then minimize the folder with the arrow, and it's in there. Of course, all of these things don't have names yet, and that can be very confusing if everything's just called layer 1 and group 1, etc. So if you want to rename your layers, all you have to do is double click on its name, and then type something new in, for example, blue circle. And there you go, click off, and it is a blue circle, and I want that to be in this group, so I just drag it in. I can also rename the group to circles, because that is the group with circles in. And there you go, that's layers pretty much in a nutshell. Only two more things really. If you want to change the opacity, which is basically well, you'll see to the left how transparent something is. As I slide it up, it comes back up, and this is what you actually see. So if you saved the picture with this state, the square would actually be see-through. It's not just for you seeing it, it is for everyone. And once you've saved it, it does that. The fill is pretty much the same thing. Also, you can use these eyes to determine whether or not you actually want to see the layer. This can be useful, for example, if I wanted to work on this purple square, but my vision was obstructed and I didn't want to get rid of or move the circles. I could just click the eye here and it gets rid of the circles so that I can work on the pink square, but it doesn't actually get rid of them, I just don't see them. So there you go, there's that. If you want to delete a layer without actually pressing delete, you can just move to this bin and click, and it will ask you delete the layer, layer 1. You can choose to have it so that once you press the button it just deletes it straight away by clicking don't show again. Yes, and it's gone. So that's layers in a nutshell. Okay, so armed with our new knowledge of layers, we can now get to work on actually doing something. So if we go down here, we can see the first tool that we're ever going to use in this tutorial, and for now it is the rectangle tool. We can just click on that and you'll see that we have a little cross. If we hold left click in, we can draw ourselves a circle, and that's how drawing a shape works. Now we can just have it do this so that we can choose exactly what we want the square to look like. However, if I hold shift, it will keep the dimensions, you know, the same on each side so that it's a perfect square as opposed to a rectangle. So I just let go, and there you have it. We've drawn a square. Now we've drew it on the background, and we don't want to do that. We want to have it in a new layer. So I'm just going to hit undo here, make a new layer, entitle it square, as we already know how to do, and then I'm going to draw a square in this new layer. I'm going to go back to the movement tool. I can drag that anywhere I like. You'll see it adjusts it on the thumbnail over here, and there you go, we've drawn a shape that we can now move about. Okay, so we have these two things now. We've got the circle on top of the square. Of course we can move them behind if I want the square on top of the circle, however I don't. So we have those two. Now I'm going to delete the square layer because I've shown you how to draw shapes. There are more shape tools. You can draw lines, you can draw polygons, you can draw rounded rectangles, and probably the coolest feature, you can draw your own custom shape. At the moment I have it set to this explode thing. I'm gonna just get rid of those, get rid of that darn square, and we're gonna draw a rounded rectangle tool, which is the second down the list. I've already explained the square tool. Now if we want the radius of the corners to be bigger, we want a bigger curve, we just go up here where it says radius. I can actually just click here and drag it upwards, or you can type in the box, I want the radius to be 100, oh dear, 100 pixels, px, and I'm going to draw it here, and you'll see that the square is much more rounded. So that's how that works. For the ellipse tool, we can draw, without holding shift, anything that looks like that, to 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 that. With the polygon tool, we can draw the polygon, but we can change how many sides it has up at this box as well. I want it to have 17 sides, and I draw it, and you can see there it has a lot more sides. That's probably a bit much actually. I'll set it at 10, draw a decagon, and there you go. So you can make some really funky shapes. Okay, so that's that. The last shape tool, of course, I mentioned the custom shape tool. I had it set to an explosion. However, if you go up here, you can choose any shape you want. You can download some shape packs. You'll see I have a few here. I'm going to go to music, click replace current shapes with the shapes from music. So that's how you add or change a set. You click this arrow, scroll down, and then choose your own set. I've chose music, and now when I draw it, it will look like that, exactly what I've chosen. So we've drawn our shape, but now we want to know how to manipulate it. Well, next episode I'll get into the transform tool. However, right now we're going to look at the selection tools. The selection tools are located just under the movement tool, where, as you can see, you choose it and then grab it and you can drag it anywhere you'd like on the screen. In the selection tools you have the rectangular marquee tool, the elliptical marquee tool, single row marquee and single column marquee. We're going to forget these two for the moment because we don't really need to know them. The main ones are the rectangular marquee tool and the elliptical marquee tool. So I'm just going to choose rectangular for now. And when I draw, you see it makes this box. This is, in a sense, the selection area. Everything inside of this is selected now. Now we can move this about without actually affecting what's going on, and we can just center it over the circle. Now if we go back to our movement tool, we can grab this and then drag it, and you'll see it's selected the whole of the shape. Now we could do that before, so we don't really need to do that, but let's just say, for example, we wanted to select half of the circle. We can do this, go back to the movement tool, and there you go, we split the circle in part like that. We can do that again, split it into quarters if we wish to, and drag it off, and there you go. That's basically how you edit things. If I go to the elliptical marquee tool, you can see I can draw a circle, and again the same rules apply. I can drag it off. Now what you're seeing there is an effect called feathering, and I'll go into that in just a sec. Okay, feathering. Just really quickly, feathering is up here, and you can choose the amount of pixels that you want it to feather. Feather is where you want it to select things roughly off the edges. So say I do this here, and this is my selection area, and feather is there. If I click the delete button, you'll see that it fades it away in a 25 pixel radius around the circle. So it's kind of selection but sloppy. It selects just a bit more, and to, you know, however you want to choose it. Actually I had it set to 50 pixels, and we can put it in the middle and click delete, and it also goes 50 pixels inwards, and it just does it like that. So I can hold delete, I can keep pressing delete until everything's gone, but you know, it's just a cool way if you want something to have a fade. See, that looks pretty nice there, and there you go, you got a really faded corner. Excellent. So, what if you have this shape right here, but you want it to be separate? For example, you want this bit to not actually be in the same layer, because right now you'll see that if we move this, it moves everything. You go to the marquee tool, and you select just a simple bit that you want to extract or remove from the layer, and you can right click. Now you can see that there's lots of options here. You can deselect it, so, I don't know, you made a mistake and you don't want to select it anymore. You can select the inverse. Now I'll just click on that, and you'll see it selects the exact opposite, so I've selected everything but this. We don't want to do that, however, right now. We can feather it, as we saw before. We can refine the edge, save it, make a work path. All of that's kind of complicated stuff, but here's the three things that we want to do. Layer via copy, which creates a copy of just this little area in a new layer, or we can make a layer via cut, which extracts it, it cuts it out of the actual layer that you're working with now. So we'll do that, and you'll see there, layer 1, and if I just go to move this about, you can see there, it moves just that bit because it's now on a separate layer. Okay, something new about layers that you didn't know already that I haven't covered before. If you want to merge the layers, you know, make them whole again, actually have this back with these two, you can hold shift or hold control. In this case I can do shift because shift just selects everything in its path, whereas control just selects individual ones that you select. I right click and I can click merge layers. Now this merges the two together. I'm just going to call it circles again, but it merges the two together so that they're now part of the same layer. Of course I haven't actually selected a layer, so I can't edit this one yet, so I select circles and there you go, it's now all part of the same thing. Lastly, we're going to look at the inverse tool, or the inverse selection option properly, you know, as it's supposed to be used. So we're just going to draw a circle here. Let's just say I want to get rid of everything but this circle in the same layer. I could just select this, right click, invert the selection, and you'll see it's selected everything but the circle. Now when I click delete, it deletes everything but the circle. Of course, at the same time, I could have just went delete, delete, but it's a nice shortcut. Okay, so far we've looked at the layers tools, we've looked at the shape tools, and we've looked at basic selection tools. Next we're going to look at this thing called the Lasso Tool. It's pretty cool. It just lets you draw your own selection. If I let go here, it will complete this weird little triangle that I've drawn. And there you go, it's selected this. As normal, we can drag this selection about until we're happy with where it's placed. And let's just say I wanted to delete half of the circle, I can just press delete. And there you go. Or, if I just undo that, I can select the inverse and delete the rest. And there you go. If I hold shift and draw with the lasso tool, it doesn't actually keep it the same. It doesn't make it a straight line or make it nice. So just be warned that if you're using the lasso tool, you've got to be very, very precise with your mouse. If we hold on the lasso tool, we can see the polygonal lasso tool. This is a bit better because it lets you click instead of point, click instead of point, click instead of point, and it's more square. Not very useful if you wanted to make things round, but very useful if you wanted to keep things neat and tidy. So again, I can just double click, or I can join it back up and it will make this weird selection shape. And then obviously I can just click delete, and there you go, I've deleted just a bit. Now, it is a bit annoying because once you've come out of your selection, if you click again, it selects one again and it gets a bit annoying. But so see there, I just clicked off and it made another one. That's a bit annoying, but oh well, you get used to it. You just select the move tool, and there you go. Okay, so we've learned a lot today, I can accept that, but there is one last tool, and it's a very, very special tool. It's magic, in fact. It's called the Magic Wand tool. You can just press W to quickly select that, or you can click it from the side. And what this does is it selects things based on their colour and how things slot together. So, all of this is in one layer, the same layer. Say I want to select this red of the circle, but I want to keep this bit, I don't want to select that bit. I can just click here, and it actually selects everything that's red based on the fact that it's red. I can press Shift, and you'll see it comes up with a little plus tool. I can then select more things. It's useful to know that this also works with every other shape selection tool. We can draw a square, hold shift, and draw more things. As such, we can make our own very, very weird selection tool. That's slightly more advanced, but hopefully you'll be able to take that in because of the things that we've covered today. There we go, we've got this really, really weird selection there. Just gonna undo that. A useful keyboard shortcut, by the way, is Control Z to undo, but that only undoes the last action. Control Alt Z to completely undo. Control Shift Z to redo. And one of the most useful things for this tutorial, it pertains to selection. It's Control A, and it will select everything on the canvas. It will select the whole canvas region. If you just wanted to delete everything fast instead of having to drag all the way up, like that. Anyway, back to the selection tool. So yeah, we can select all of the different colors. What is useful to note is if you choose, see it has contiguous up here, or contiguous, I'm not quite sure how to say that. If we untick this, and then select the red circle, it will select everything that's red on the canvas, and it also does this with the green. So there you go, it selects everything of the same color on the canvas. Very nice stuff. Okay, so it's time for a cool example to show how we learned all of our skills today. I'm just going to make a new document, and hopefully you'll be able to keep up because I'm only going to use things or imply techniques that I've actually used before in the tutorial videos. So I'm going to change the name to Obama. Yes, that's right, we're going to use Obama for this this little guide. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm just going to Control paste in an image that I've already got copied to the clipboard. So there you go. I'm going to rename this layer Obama. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We've got Obama, but let's just say that we don't want this this horribly dull background. Let's just make our own background. Now I want to actually work on a background, so I don't want to see Obama. So we're just gonna untick his little eye there so that we can see what we're doing. I'm gonna change the color to red because why not? We've been using that a lot. I'm gonna go to the shape tool, custom shape, and I'm gonna choose our own custom shape. And I'm gonna choose this one. I'm just gonna drag and make a custom shape. So there you go, we've got that done. Got that all selected and ready. Now, if we untick Obama, we'll see that that's in front of him, and that's not what we want. So I'm gonna make him visible, and I'm gonna drag him in front. But of course we can't see the background now, we need to get rid of this horrible one. Now, we could do this and drag the polygonal lasso tool, because it's quite easy to control. And we could do that all the way around his lovely head. Of course this is very tedious, so I'm just gonna speed this up and make it not as good as it should be. Double click and then select the inverse and click delete, and there you go, we've got Obama on a lovely background. However, that's not as professional, we shouldn't have done that. I should have spent more time on it, but that would have been boring for you guys. So I'm just going to go to the magic wand tool and click. Now you'll see that that's selected. Well, it's not selecting everything. So if we just go up to tolerance, we can change the tolerance to 20. The tolerance will just make it so that, you know, it allows slightly different colors, but as long as it's generally the same. See there, the tolerance was too much, it's now caught onto his jacket because the black and the grey are similar. I'm going to put the tolerance down to 10 and hopefully that should solve the problem. There you go, that's good enough, eh? Going to delete that, and delete that colour. Of course we can still see these really weird bits on the side, so I'm just going to go to my lasso tool and clean them up. Click delete there. Just going to grab delete there as well. And there you go, we've got Obama on a lovely background. Now, if I spent more time on this, I could have made that look a lot better than it does by playing around with the tolerance, for example, making it different, you know, all of that. But yeah, that's good enough for now. So yeah, it just applies everything that we've seen before. That was a horrible example, but it's an example nonetheless of how you would go about using this. And yeah, so we've used the shapes, we used the layer tool, and there you go. It wasn't that hard really, was it, when you look at it? They're very confusing at the start, but really the best way to learn about something, I think, is just by experiencing it yourself and playing around with it. So why don't you play around with it yourself, and then you will have a good time. See you later.